No, so let's go back to the Sridei Eish.
Yeah.
So the Sridei Eish quoted Reb Chaim Ozer Grodzinski. Remember, he said that the Dvar Avraham, the Kovner of, sent this question of the status of civil marriages in Halacha to many Gedolim before the war. It then got published, the responses after the war. He said the most important of which, V'hachashuvim shebohem, heim mehagon Reb Chaim Ozer Grodzinski zatzal. You have it in your bundle, which I gave to you last time. Shahoira lahokal b'mokim igun, shaloi lahasig gam, loi lahasig get mehabal. Right? He says that Reb Chaim Ozer paskened that b'mokim igun, when in extremis, to use the Latin, right? When there is a shas adchak, when there is a difficult situation, where it's impossible to get a get from the Baal, in such a case, we can be makel not to get a get from the Baal. That's all he quotes from Chaim Ozer as saying. We have started learning the letter, although, interestingly, this letter, Reb Chaim Ozer discusses this in a few different places, in his tshuvas as well, and I don't think we'll necessarily have time to go through that. This is a letter which we started learning last time, which I gave you, which he wrote to Reb Tzvi Hirschfaber, the Rav in London, and we are up to, we actually did a little bit, but I want to go over it again, and I want to expand on this with something else that he brings. So today we're going to hopefully do some classic yeshivish lomdas. Ubeikar hadova, right? Mm-hmm. You have the Igeris of Reb Chaim Ozer. I'm sure I gave it to you.
I think so. That's the one with the civile ear.
Yeah.
Where it said civile ear, you remember?
Civi?
Civile ear. Where he uses this Yiddish phrase. Civile
ear. Right, yes, correct. Okay. Ubeikar hadova. Masha mechalek rum kavod teirasoi min nidon harivosh. Let's remind ourselves. Our locus classicus here is the Rivosh, right? Brought in the Ramah, okay? So Rab Tzvi Hirschfaber wanted to draw a distinction from the classic case of the Rivosh, Shehuva lahalocha b'simin chavav bein nisun etzel hakoyma bein nisun etzel hakoyes notarion, a notary. So Rab Tzvi Hirschfaber wanted to draw a distinction between the case of the Rivosh, because there it was a case in church, it was with a priest. He wanted to say maybe civil marriage is different. Says Reb Chaim Ozer, I don't agree. Haloi hoiru shnei g'doilei hadoir hagon maram shik vagon Rabbi Yitzchok Shmelkas b'sifrei Beis Yitzchok shekosav. These two goinim very explicitly do not make the distinction. Mali nisuim b'ni musayim etzel hakomer. What difference does it make to me whether you go to church or you go to the rat house, you go to the town hall? The common thing here is that for whatever reason, and maybe we can, suspend judgment what the reason is. Remember, we spoke about possibly the financial burden of a rabbi making a marriage. Whatever the reason is, Lamais, at the end of the day, so the Maram Shik and the Beis Yitzchok, two very important poskim, both say, given that somebody who does not do Kiddushin with a Kedas Moshe Yisrael, and instead does it in any other forum, whether it is in church, Chas v'Shalom, or whether it is in a town hall, it makes no difference. Bottom line is, they've decided not to get married al pi das Moshe Yisrael. Ve'ein shum chiluk beineim, there's no difference between them. Ure'ezem otzosi b'tshuvas harambam. So therefore he's very politely rejecting the concept, the suggestion of Rav Tzvi Hirschfaber. And then he says, look at this. He says, I found a Tshuvas HaRambam. Hanidfas B'Yerushalayim in 1934, there was a new edition of a Tshuvas from the Rambam was published. Simon Kufnun Vav, Kufnun Zayin. Now listen to the case. This is going to be very germane. This is going to be very important for us in developing understanding the analysis, the lomdus here. Kohen shenoso grusha b'dinei hagoyim. The case was as follows. A Kohen married a divorcee. Now that's a lav. You know that, right? Today we learned it this morning. Isha zoyna v'chalala lo yikachu v'isha grusha meisha lo yikachu ki kodoshu leilo yikav. Yeah, it's a pasuk. The Nissa Doraisa. So Kohen's not allowed to marry a divorcee, but he did so b'dinei hagoyim, civilly. That was the case in the Rambam, right? We're going back 1,000 years. A Kohen married a divorcee according to their laws. Says the Rambam, and he quotes, do you know what he should do? Yegarsheno bedinei hagoyim. Quote unquote. The Rambam writes, this fellow should go and get a civil divorce. You want to get rid of her? Get dinei hagoyim. Very interesting phrase. Umavua midvarov, says Reb Chaim Ozer. You see from this Rambam, she'ein tzarich legarsha b'dinei Yisrael. There is no need to divorce her with get peturin, with a get. Kedivrei harivash. Umidivrei hatshayla v'hatshuva nira shalei nishtamdu. If you look at the context of that shaila over there, there's no question of an apostate, of somebody who, as a lifestyle, rejected Yiddishkeit. No, he went and he got married civilly. Bedinei hagoyim. He doesn't say church even. Va'afilo hocha ein tzorich get. No get required. So he uses the Rambam to buttress, to support this assertion, and that of the Maram Shik and the Beis Yitzchok. Bottom line, if you don't get married, b'chuppah v'kiddushin, me'ika hadin, no get is required. The Rambam himself writes, go and get a divorce, bedinei hagoyim. Okay?
Assuming nothing else happened.
What do you mean by anything else?
Like,
there was no chuppah v'kiddushin. So
maybe there was like BS L'Shem.
That's exactly the point. And this is what we need to delve into a little bit.
One quick question.
Sure.
So let's say this couple, not like what this could have happened also in Berlin. A non-from couple, they get married.
Sadly,
civilly.
it probably happens daily.
Right, they get married civilly, and then after, I don't know, a lifetime, they say, we want a chuppah. They come to the Rav says, oh, you're a grusha, you're a kohen, we can't have...
So let's park that for a moment. But absolutely, one of the reasons we are learning this is because in Mirtz Hashem, I wish I could say, I give you a bracha that in your career, you will never come across, in your future careers, you will never come across any of these. You absolutely will. And you need to know how to handle it at many different levels. And the first of which, of course, is the halacha. We need to be utterly conversant in the halacha. Both we're doing the principle, and we'll get to halacha l'maisa and practice of botei din, we will get to later. Okay? So we are laying down the yesodus, the shroshim, the roots of understanding these halachic principles. So where are we up to? He brings a proof from the Chuvas Rambam that ein tzorich get. Right. Kohen married a grusha. So you're saying, what about ein odomesa bilasai bilasnus? What happened to that chazaka? That's what we need to see. Now, here he throws a spanner in the works. This is so beautiful because the goinus of Reb Chaim Ozer, he quotes an Avnei Miluim, which we're going to learn, Mirtz Hashem, and he challenges himself. He says, Elo sheyesh loimar, al pi mashkos of Avnei Miluim, siman lamed gimel, shemevayir divrei hashiltei giborim. He brings an Avnei Miluim's pshat in a shiltei giborim, and he says that maybe on the basis of that, maybe I am wrong, and that is what we're going to learn now, this Avnei Miluim and the shiltei giborim. And I don't know if we'll get there today. After we've learned the Avnei Miluim, he'll then come back and show us how it's not a challenge on his own assertion and assumption. You with me? Mm-hmm. I'm just sketching out the context. Now let's turn to the Avnei Miluim. So the Avnei Miluim is in Siman Lamed Gimel. The Siman Lamed Gimel in Even Ezer. This is Even Ezer in the middle. Yes? Shulchan Aruch, Even Ezer. Right? Keitzad ha'isha miskadeshes bebiya u'beis seifim. There is a halacha, the Mishnah. Ha'isha niknes b'shleisha drachim b'kesef b'shtaru b'biya. As we know, we do not Rav Mangid Amanda Mekadesh b'biya. It's considered to be a chutzpah to be Mekadesh b'biya. We are not l'maisa Mekadesh b'biya. And the Shulchan Aruch discusses how it works, what we shouldn't do it, etc. We're going to miss out the first bit of the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, and we're going to go to it's sort of in the middle of the column, end of the line in the Ramah is Yud Aleph, Yesh Omrim. Okay? So it's the start of a new subtopic. Yesh Omrim. Says the Ramah, some say, Deponoi habala pnuya lifnei edim, Chayshishin shema kivil l'shem kiddushin, Mordechai perek ha'omer. There is an opinion brought, the Mordechai, one of the Choshev Rishonim, Ponoi habala pnuya, two unmarried people who have an intimate relationship, lifnei edim, in front of edim, doesn't mean they're in the room. It means heinen edei yichud, right? Chosheshin shemo kiven l'shem kiddushin. We ought to be concerned that maybe the man, and interesting, it says maybe he had, shemo kiven, maybe he had in mind. What about her? It doesn't say shemo kivnu.
But he is Mekadosh.
He's Mekadosh, but he can only be Mekadosh l'Ritzona. And this, by the way, I'm going to throw this in parentheses, is a massive machlekes achronim. When we say Chazaka eino d'meisa bilasa bilaznus, whether that applies only to him or to her as well.
Ah, you mean what if he had the intention of Kedushin, but she didn't, and then
it's a machlekes.
Okay.
I'm just throwing that in kind of in parentheses. So back to the Ramah. Says the Ramah. The Ramah quotes an opinion from the Mordcha that Ponoi Abal Apnuya, and there were Eidim on the Yichud, we are concerned maybe he had in mind for Kiddushin, and thus it would require a get. Why? The Chazaka ein adameisa bilasai bilaznus. So despite the fact that he's being a naughty boy, he's Ponoi Abal Apnuya, right? Shouldn't do that. Nevertheless, the Mordcha suggests maybe still Chazaka ein adameisa bilasai bilaznus. Avol im kvar huchzak liznus oy sheyesh la isha acheres lo chayshinon Trumas Hadeshen. The Trumas Hadeshen modifies the opinion of the Mordcha and says, but if we know for a fact that this is somebody who is promiscuous, that's the correct word, yes? He's promiscuous.
Or he has a wife.
Or he already has a wife, which is a definite no-no. Well, it's a no-no anyway. But yesh l'isha acheres. So therefore, no, the vote is, by the way, the issue of Ponoi Abal Apnuya from the man's perspective makes no difference whether he's married or not. You understand that?
Yeah.
From the man's perspective. But it does make a difference insofar as his intention is concerned. Because it's then going to be very unlikely that he wants to marry her. I mean, one wife is enough, okay? I know you just got engaged and everything, but but still. Therefore, no, insofar as his intention is concerned, he definitely wouldn't be Shem Kiddushin. So therefore, the Trumas Hadeshen, Simon Reish Tes, modifies this opinion of the Mordcha and says, if somebody is Huchzak Liznus, or he already has a wife where we can safely assume he didn't have Kavanah L'Shem Kiddushin, then other than that, we would say, Chazaka ein adameisa bilasa bilaznus. Unless we know to the contrary. It's almost like the default assumption is, maybe it was Biah L'Shem Kiddushin, and therefore maybe there's a get. That's the first opinion. V'yesh omrim, v'yesh mekilin b'chol inyan. And there is another opinion that says we are mekel b'chol inyan. Now, we'll have to see what that means. What does it mean, yesh mekilin b'chol inyan? To say that a get is never required. That, yeah? That's a kula, a leniency insofar as not requiring a get is concerned. Yeah. That is the Ramah. Now comes the Avnei Miluim, right? Says the Avnei Miluim. You've got it here on the side. Aleph. The Chazok eino d'meisa bilasa bilaznus. Says the Avnei Miluim. Kosav Mishnah Lemelech. Says the Mishnah Lemelech. Mishnah Lemelech. Perek Yud Halachit Ches Migerushin. Ro'isi b'tshuvas Radvaz. The Mishnah Lemelech is quoting a Radvaz. She'im pirson nida v'nisyachid ima b'fnei edim. What would be if a woman ponei apnuya, a woman it becomes a nida v'nisyachid ima b'fnei edim, and he does yichud with her in front of edim. Lo chayshinon la. We don't consider the likelihood that he would go ahead and be intimate with her when she is a nida, and therefore the fact that there was edei yichud doesn't automatically tell me that they were intimate. Why? Because a Jew, generally speaking, has a cheskes kashrus, and he's not going to be over on an issakoris. Even if we actually saw that they were intimate together, we still would not be worried. Maybe he did so l'shem kiddushin. Why? The chazaka that a person would not make his biah bilaznus does not apply in this case when he is being intimate with a nida. Demanda over alisa kores lechosh bilaznus. Ad kan. What is more strict in technical halachic terms, biah with a nida, or ponei habala pnuya l'shem znus versus l'shem kiddushin. Which one is stricter? Nida is a chorus. Nida makes no difference whether she's married, unmarried, as long as she's Jewish. Chorus, that's a chorus. Not being intimate with two unattached people who are not, and she's not a nida, is a lav. Possibly it might be drabonon. It's a lav. It's a no. Don't try this at home, as they say. But it's also, of course, but nowhere near as strong as a chorus. Therefore, when we say Zog the Mishnah Melech in the name of the Radvaz, when we say Chazokah, that's when we can assume, we know nothing to the contrary, we assume everybody's a good Jew, you have a Chazokah. But if we see this guy being intimate with a niddah, he ain't no good Jew. He is, and we're assuming that he knows that she's a niddah, presume, we'll see, but assuming he knows she's a niddah, he doesn't care about Issa Chorus. That's really, it doesn't get worse than that. So do you really think, he said, I'm going to have kavana l'shem kiddushin with this niddah? No way. That is, the Mishnah Melech brings this Radvaz. So far so good? Okay, weiter. Udvarav nechoinim heim. This is the Mishnah Melech quoting this Radvaz with approval, approvingly. Udvarav nechoinim heim. V'nira lefarish dvarav. Says the Mishnah Melech pshat in the Radvaz. Even if we don't know that whether he knows that she is a niddah, we're still not worried that it was kiddushin. Even if we see that we know they were intimate together. The assumption is she told him. And he wasn't worried. We mentioned this before. Says the Mishnah Melech that the chazaka, that a person will not cohabit or have intercourse with somebody promiscuously, and if we have a choice of interpreting what's going on over here, whether it's l'shem kiddushin or l'shem znus, this chazaka that a person is assumed to act in the best possible way is equally valid on the woman as much as the man. Chazaka ein od meise bilasa bilaz of the Mishnah Melech is on a woman as well. Al shneim nemru ve'ino isha miskadeshes elo liritzoyna. And a woman, we know you can't go and force a woman for kiddushin. V'chiven shehi lo yichoshesh al issa chorus. She knows she's a niddah. She definitely knows. Hello, it's her body. She knows. She knows she's a niddah. She doesn't care. She's still intimate with him. Therefore, the chazaka ein od meise bilasa bilaz applies to her as well. In this case, she for sure had kavanah for znus, because she knows she's a niddah. She doesn't care. She's still intimate with him. So she didn't have kavanah for kiddushin. So therefore, it doesn't matter even what his kavanah is, because you can only be mekadosh to the daita. Therefore, beautiful piece of lomdus.
Meaning, because she's a niddah and she still was intimate.
Therefore,
that's a proof that she wouldn't have the intention.
Absolutely.
It's not possible that she, as a niddah, has this thing with this kavanah.
Correct, and therefore, irrespective of his kavanah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because you can't be mekadosh to a woman against her will anyway, and she definitely didn't have kavanah for kiddushin.
It's like stealing.
Beautiful, simple, elegant piece of lomdus, but it's predicated on one concept, that the chazaka in other words said be'ilosoi be'ilaznus is ne'emar on both parties.
Yeah.
You should know it's not a davar hamuskim. We won't have time to go into it. It's a debate in the Achronim. I did some research on it, but be aware this is the opinion of the Mishnah Melech, and this is how he interprets the Radvaz. So far, so good?
Mm-hmm. Yes, my head is thinking about, generally, mikvahs are not allowing unmarried women to go into the mikvah. And I heard that some kind of community was allowing in Manhattan, whatever. I have
Let's shelve it for the moment. I have plenty to say on it. It's an interesting topic.
How this changes the chazaka.
Good point. I can't get sidetracked now.
Okay, nice.
I have plenty to say on it. There's a Baal Akeda on this. There's a Shaila, he was asked about a Jewish brothel in the 14th century, whether the Rav should give a hechsher on it. Don't ask. It's in the Baal Akeda, a bit X-rated. Not for now. When do we say Chatoim Tir Dafra? When do we say Haliteu L'Rosh V'Yomois? When do we try and help people? That is a fascinating halachic subtopic. You're right, but I just can't get into it at the moment. Let's remain focused. So far, so good. We have a Mishnah Melech quoting and explaining a Radvaz. Let's move on. Shlav Bet. Umotzosi. Says the Avnei Miluim. Umotzosi shaharashba eina sevikein. Top of the next column. Umotzosi shaharashba eina sevikein. Ayin shom b'tshuva. Chadoshes miksav yad simkuf samach beis. Says the Avnei Miluim, I will demonstrate that the Rashba holds not like this. What's the shaila? Now, the shaila is, the lashon is a bit musubach. I'll take you through the bits which I think is relevant for us. Weird and interesting. If you ever, Ben Azmanim, you ever want to relax, pick up a tshuvas of the Rashba, sometimes complicated. I don't know, a Noida B'Yehuda, or and you see the stories, the things that went on there, or at least the shailas that made their way to some of the achronim. Some fascinating stuff, really interesting. Gives you a very interesting insight into aspects of what sometimes was going on in Kehillas. I don't know, maybe sometimes we have this picture of everybody was incredibly frum and everybody behaved well.
Everything was better back then.
Everything was better. It's another story, but you see some really interesting stuff. Anyway, this is the Rashba. The Shaila, Shalta. I think you're on the wrong... Yeah, top of the column, there. Shalta. Okay. Rochel ba'a va'omra. Rochel comes and says, Pnuya ani. I am upon Pnuya. I'm not married.
Single.
I'm single. Thank you. I knew there was a word in English. Yeah, thank you. There's a word. It's been a lot. It's been a while. Yeah. V'niskadsha l'shum pilegesh b'lo ksuba. Now, it is true, I accepted Kiddushin as a pilegesh without a ksuba. We spoke about this already. V'shasa ima kamo yomim, and I was with my pilegesh, partner, whatever, for a few days. V'nisiachda imoi, and she was alone with him. V'acha kach noida ba'edim shekva niskadsha l'reuvein ze shonim. Then it became clear that through Edim, that actually she was married to Reuven, another guy, for a while. V'acha kol zen, after this, it became known, shehevi la ochiv me Reuven ba'alo harishon get. La'acha zman kiddushay sheni. Ma yehadim. Sorry, so let's get this clear. Let's establish a timeline. So Rachel comes and says, I am single. I accepted Kiddushin as a pilegesh, without ksuba, from Chaim. I was with Chaim for a number of days, and was yichud with him, and then it became known through Edim that actually Rachel is not a pnuya when she accepted Kiddushin from the pilegesh, from this guy as a pilegesh. She was actually married to Reuven for many years. Then Reuven's brother, her real husband, brings a get from Reuven, but only brings her a get. He's a shliach and brings her a get and gives her a get after such time as she has been intimate with her pilegesh partner.
Yeah.
What's the halacha? We got it? That's the case. Okay. Says the Rashba. Tshuva. Isha zu tzricha get bein merishin bein misheni. This woman needs a get from Reuven and from the pilegesh guy, Chaim, in our case. Rega. Let's give the Rashba a chance. I'm sure there's a million questions. Give him a chance. It's always very important when you're learning these things, a little bit of patience. When you're learning this, you've got to work it through, okay? So, Isha zu tzricha get bein merishin bein misheni. The Isha zu kivin shenisiachta imoy achara kiddushin. This woman that was misiached with Chaim after the Kiddushin, the Pilegesh Kiddushin, we now have a halachic right to assume they were intimate, right? Zu shemitchilasa leiniskadsha kiven sheyoda ze hasheni shesh edim sheniskadsha kvar leReuven v'ra haget biyad ha'isha shegirsha Reuven yodeyahu she'ein kiddushin toifsin be'eshes ish. So Chaim, who now finds out that actually she's married, and he knows you can't marry a person again. Once a woman is married, she's married. Kiddushin are not toifsin and eshes ish. And he v'gomar uboal achar gerushay isha l'shem kiddushin, right? And he was Boyel and with her after the gerushin of the first one, l'shem kiddushin. Kidomrin b'ktana heicha debal acha shegodla v'amda v'niskad shal hasheni eino tzricha get misheni. Sorry, again, I'm losing it. I'm losing the plot myself again. She yoda ze hasheni she'edim sheniskad shekval Reuven v'rob get biyad ha'isha shegir Reuven. So he knows that his kiddushin was nothing. He knew after he was intimate with her that his kiddushin was nothing, and he went ahead and he was intimate with her. What's going on? She's not going to require a get from the second guy. When he is intimate with her after she gets the get, even though, I need to give you some background, sorry. I think I messed up here. Let me give you some background. There's a very important halacha, which I hope you never need to use in your halachic deliberations, but it's a very important halacha. We learn from a posuk. The Gemara says 3 times, there's a v'nitma'a. V'nitma'a, v'nitma'a. In the parish of Sota. Given that I haven't gotten a copy of that, I'm going to learn for him. I printed a few copies. Yeah. So, the posuk says, v'nistera v'hinitma'a. When a woman is a sota, becomes a sota, the process is her husband has to warn her with Eidim, warn her not to go and be misyachid with so-and-so. She then goes and there's Eidim v'nistera, and she does have yichud with him. V'nistera v'hi nitma'a. The posuk uses the word, and she is defiled. She is tomei. And it says it 3 times. And from here we have the begrif, the halachische begrif, echad leba'al, ve'echad leboyel, ve'echad letruma. You need to know this phrase. This is a phrase you should be familiar with. You should be having in your vocabulary. Echad the way it's usually said over, the truma, we don't really, it's not relevant for us in this context. You need to be familiar with this halachische begrif, echad leba'al, ve'echad leboyel, which means as follows. An Eishes Ish who is nistera, with Eidei Yichud, with somebody after her husband has told her not to, is now considered to be, she's now forbidden, v'nitma'a, min ha'torah, unless she goes through the process of birur of sota to demonstrate she either dies or she's found to be, but until such time, v'nitma, she is forbidden to both.
Yeah.
She's forbidden to the Baal and she's forbidden to the Boil. Mm-hmm. And this, my friends, unfortunately, can and does happen. When somebody, we have to work out the parameters, what's called yichud. If somebody has chas v'shalom an affair, depending on the circumstances, it can.
Only
with Eidim yichud. Yeah.
There's cases where there's people who have yichud, like an affair, and there's Eidim, and they want
there has to be Eidei Yichud. But the halacha remains. So in our case, let's go on.
Still, without the Eidim, the concept still stands. B'dinei Shamayim.
The concept still stands.
In the sense
and how we apply this halachically, we're not going to go into at this stage. Perhaps we'll do it as a topic another time. But it's relevant now, and I thought it's worthwhile. The Rashba is bringing it in because it's relevant in this case. Let's go over now its application to our case. Mm-hmm. This woman accepted Kiddushin from Chaim as a Pilegesh and was intimate with Chaim with Eidim, Eidei Yichud, which we assume to be Eidei Biya, before she had received the get from Reuven's brother.
Yeah.
So she is now forbidden
to
both.
Yeah.
What are you going to say that subsequent to that, when Chaim, the Pilegesh, yes, is then boil her, we'll say Chazokah, he's not going to do it l'shem Znus, he'll do it l'shem Kiddushin. But this is a Biya Asura.
So it's like
because of Echad Lebal, Echad Leboil. Like, very good. You can see where the Avnei Miluim is going with this. Mm-hmm. Back to the Radvaz. Well done. Very good. So we now have a scenario. Basically, this Chuvas Rashba has set up a scenario to simplify it, where we have a question whether we are going to apply Chazokah Einad Moisa Bilose Bilaznus to a Biya Asura. In this case, in the Rashba's case, it's a Biya Asura because of what? Echad Lebal, Echad Leboil. She knowingly cohabited with this guy before as an Ashes Ish. She is now with Adam. She is now min HaTorah forbidden to this guy. So what you're going to say? And by the way, Chaim's also done an Issa. They both are doing an Issa, right? Mm-hmm. So now the question is, no, but then a few days later she gets a get from Reuven. And we now want to discuss whether Chaim being intimate with her after having received the get from Reuven, do we say on that, Biah Chazaka Eina Domeisa Bilasa Bilaznus? That's the Shaila. So it is a parallel, Sami's quite right, it is a parallel to the case of the Radvaz, except there it was Bias Nida, and here it's Biah of a Lav and Isra V'hinitol, or an Issa Asay. Let's see what the Rashba says. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see where we're going with this, and see whether that's going to apply to the Rivosh. Says the Rashba, first wide line on the column on the left-hand side, in the middle. V'afal pi shasura loy mivenitma mikol mokaim kiddushin toisin ba min ha'Torah. Now, it's true that, now, Kiddushin works. The halacha is Kiddushin of Teifus b'chai v'lavin. What happens if Chas v'shalom a kohen marries a grusha? Does the Kiddushin work? Yes, they do.
Yeah, it's a lav.
It's a lav. Kiddushin are Teifus with chai v'lavin. They're valid. They're only not valid with a chai v'koros, right? Chai v'lavin, Kiddushin, it's machlokes. Rebbe Kiva, but we paskin that Kiddushin are Teifus b'chai v'lavin. So, the Kiddushin is Teifus. Now, he was Mekadesh Biah. Umasha Tanzam Mekadesh Nisiachidim Olashum Nisuin. Ulefichach Rashoy Hu Lichnois. As you know, the guy said, Chaim is a Talmud Chacham. Chaim says, you know, when I was intimate with her the first time, it wasn't L'Shem Nisuin. And therefore, I'm now allowed to marry her. I didn't marry her Be'isur. Ein Mamish B'ta Noisov. Kamei Shamarnu Sha'yichud Harehu Kabiyah. He said before he wasn't misyachid with a l'shem nisuin. We say to him, I'm afraid, sorry, old chap. There's Eidei Yichud, and as far as we're concerned, hein Eidei Yichud, hein Eidei Biah. As far as we're concerned, you've been intimate with her, halachically, before she received the get.
But he's in cheskes of kashrut.
You tell me. He is. What do you think?
I mean,
now it is true that at the time it is possible that he. Let's assume he did not know she was a nation Ish. That doesn't make a difference. Lemaise was a Biah Asura, so we won't put him to death and blah, blah, blah. Fine, let's assume she hid from him the fact that she was married to Reuven at the time.
Yeah.
But it's still, the nitma, the halacha still stands.
Yeah.
So what's he going to say? You know, I wasn't intimate with her until after the get. We'll say to him, sorry, we don't accept that. So as far as we're concerned, albeit maybe unknowingly, but you were misyachid with her and thus intimate with her before she received a get. Now there's an Issa Asay. V'huva b'beis Yosef. U'mavuar da'afilu loy ra'inu shenivala. What do you see from this Rashba? Says the Avnei Miluim. U'mavuar da'afilu loy ra'inu shenivala afilu hocha amrinon hein eidei yichud. We say hein eidei yichud. Va'afal gav da'asura loy min ha'Torah. Even though she's forbidden to him in ha'Torah. D'kashem sh'asura lebal asura lebayel afilu hocha kiven de kiddushin toifsin ba. Since kiddushin work, we say ein odom oisa bilasa bilazanus. V'gama l'shem kiddushin. Im kain benidonami. As long as the Rashba says, I'm only interested in one thing only. Are kiddushin toifus? If kiddushin work at that time, then we say chazaka ein odom oisa bilasa bilazanus, but he doesn't l'shem kiddushin. That's all that matters. Whether even if the biah is a biah asura, we say chazaka ein odom oisa bilasa bilazanus. Therefore, says the Avnei Miluim, you see from the Rashba that we say chazaka ein odom oisa bilasa bilazanus even in a situation where it's asa. Va'aval gav da asura loy min ha'Torah de kashem she'asura lebal asura lebayil afilu hocha kiven de kiddushin toifsin ba ein odom oisa bilasa bilazanus v'gama l'shem kiddushin v'im kain benidonami de kiddushin toifsin ba amrin ein odom oisa bilasa bilazanus v'gama l'shem kiddushin va'afilu loy ra'inu ela hayichud, even if all we saw was the yichud, amrin hein eidei yichud v'loy kaharadvas. So the Avnei Miluim has tried to set up a machloikas between the Radvaz and the Rashba. What is it based on? It's based on whether, in a case of bias isur, do we say chazaka ein odom oisa bilasa bilazanus or not? The Radvaz says not, and the Rashba says yes. Ubeshilta gibayrim. Now let's come to the case, because this is more I think it's going to be more relevant to us. This is what Reb Chaim Ozer. Sorry?
And the machloket, what was the...
The machlokas is whether you say Chazaka Eino Domeisa Bilas Bilas Nus in a case where the Biah itself is a forbidden Biah. The Rashba says the only thing that matters is, does Kiddushin work? In any scenario where a Kiddushin would theoretically work, even though it's a forbidden one, but as long as it would work,
It's not business.
then we say Chazaka Eino Domeisa Bilas Bilas Nus, and he does it L'Shem Kiddushin, even though the Biah is a Biah Asura. Whereas the Radvaz says not.
But
Let's see now whether...
Neither everybody would agree with that.
No,
that's an assumption that you're making.
It's
But the
not
Rashba-
Not yet.
Tradition wouldn't.
No. One second, guys, slow down. It's good. You're getting into it. This is good.
But we said in neither Kiddushin Toksin, but still.
Kiddushin
Kiddushin, of course.
Yeah, right. So it's still
Because
positive.
Kiddushin, I myself have under we lechatchila we don't do chupas nida, but it can happen. If something goes wrong, I don't know, with medication, we do chupas nida. We try and avoid it. And by the way, there's an interesting halachas there. If that happens, then hu yoshein, they can't be misyachid together. We do a fake yichud. We have somebody in the room or something.
Yeah.
And he hu yoshein bein ha'anoshim v'hi yoshein bein anoshim. But kiddushin is teifus on a nida. But that's not the point here. The point is the biah has, when we say, we're not talking about kiddushin, we're talking about biah. Or kiddushin. Biah, is it kiddushin or is it znus? The Radvaz says, for the moment I'm going to keep it simple, Daniel. You're kind of jumping ahead, which may or may not be right, we're going to see. But the Radvaz says that if the biah is biah ha'asura, in his case it happened to be nida, then we don't say chazaka in adamei sebilas bilaznus. We don't say it. The Rashba says even if the biah is a biah asura, we still say chazaka that it's l'shem kiddushin. Machlokas at the moment, it would appear to be a machlokas Radvaz and Rashba, but we're far from finished. Yes.
Rav, if we talk about Rachel here, who has all those things and she knows she's married.
I know where you're going. You're going back to what we said before about her, whether chazak is on shneim. Good point. For the moment, we have to shelve it. Okay. It's a good point. Very good. Is there a machlekes Radvaz and Rashba in this Nakuda? Possibly. There's a Rabbi Kiva Eiger on this. There's a lot of other... I'm trying to keep it simple because I'm a simple guy. Right. Let's keep it simple. For the moment, we have a machlekes. We would... Ledas ha'avnei miluim. We have a machlekes Radvaz and Rashba on this Nakuda, whether on a biah asura, whether we say chazaka in adamei sebilas bilas or not. But we're not finished. One more rishon we bring into the mix, and then we'll go back to Reb Chaim Ozer, probably next week. So, Shiltei Giborim. Says the Shiltei Giborim, the following story. Okay? I remember we then still have to go back. Reb Chaim Ozer is then going to go back to the Chuvas Rambam of the Kohen with the Grusha. You got it? You can see where we're going. This we're going to have to do next week, but let's at least make a start. And it would be great if you were able to do a little bit of chazara on this. Because it's quite meaty stuff. So let's go to the next thing that Avnei Miluim says. Just going to do a little bit more of Avnei Miluim. And I've lost my own place. Ubeshiltei Giborim. Perik Misha'achazu. V'chein nira be'einai. Says the Shiltei Giborim. Grusha min hanisuin. A woman is divorced. She is a arusa, nesua, then she gets divorced. Nises la'acher. She then goes and marries somebody else. V'nisar mala, he dies. And then she's mesiyached with balo harishon. Newsflash. There is a mitzvah to be machzik grushasoi. There's a mitzvah min HaTorah. Right? To be machzik grushasoi. However, it is forbidden. There's a lav. Lo yuchal balo harishon lekachta. Once she's married somebody else, she's not allowed to marry her again. It's a lav, okay? We'll have to see
If she gets divorced again?
Pardon?
If she gets divorced...
Once she has been married to another person, whatever that happens, whether she gets divorced or he dies, lo yoshu bala harishon lekachta. It's an issa d'oraisa. It's a lav. Now, here's the story. So the story is, she married Reuven, and then they divorce. She marries Shimon, Shimon dies. And then she's misyached with Reuven. She's misyached with Reuven. Does she need a get from Reuven or not?
And we learned that...
Good.
If a married couple that divorced,
But that is straight afterwards, not when there was another nisuin in between. The Mishnah in Gittin Pei Aleph, when she was learning about Bepildik, great that you remembered. But that's when there was nobody in between. Here there was another relationship, a halachic relationship in between, and she's misiyached once again with Reuven. The question is, does she need a get or not? Quickly, what do we say? Says the Shildi Yibayrim, Einot Sricha get mimenu, no get required. Even if they would have been intimate, there's a day yichud, and let's assume biya. Why? We say to ourselves, we have a choice now. What's this guy doing? We're assuming he was intimate with her. Reuven. What's he doing? It's either znus or ishus. Which one is it going to be? Well, if it's going to be ishus, Malchus, it's a deraisa. He's not going to do that. So be asura, so we assume he does it l'shem znus. So, is this like the Rashba or like the Radvaz?
Like the Rosh.
On that note, Rabbi Sai, we will leave it.